Hello, my name is Rochelle Gordon, and I am a student from the Autism and Behavioural Science graduate program at Mohawk College. Today I would like to share with you some work that I did with a young girl participating in an intensive behavioral intervention program in Sault Ste. Marie. Specifically, I will be going over the preference assessments that I conducted and the results and implications of those assessments. For the purpose of this presentation, I will be calling our participant Jane. Jane is a 4-year-old girl diagnosed with autism spectrum disorder. She has very limited verbal language skills, but is persistent in communicating and making her needs known. She loves to interact and play with the instructor therapists, and often will point for information, wanting them to label what she is pointing to. She also has very good receptive language skills and follows instructions well. Because Jane does not have the verbal language skills to tell the therapists what she likes best as reinforcers, I chose to conduct a forced choice or paired stimulus preference assessment and a multiple stimulus without replacement preference assessment to determine which reinforcer Jane prefers. I chose 5 items to use in the preference assessments so that Jane could easily scan all available reinforcers in the multiple stimulus assessment. The Eagle toy and the Princess and Chair toys were chosen because when in IBI, during Jane's regular table sessions, she is requested to play with these items from her bin of reinforcers. The tambourine was chosen because when observed in the play area, Jane has shown interest in musical instruments, the tambourine in particular. The chips and Swedish berries were chosen because food items had not yet been tested as reinforcers for Jane, but she does eat very well at lunch breaks, and when observed it was found that she does enjoy chips. She also has been known to like sweet foods, and since Swedish berries were readily available, these are what we used. I conducted both of the preference assessments in Jane's cubby where she does her table sessions for IBI. The paired stimulus preference assessment involved presenting the items in pairs to Jane so that all the combinations were presented once. When Jane chose an item, she was allowed to play with it for 20 seconds or eat it if it wasn't edible. Then the next pair was presented. So you can see on the data chart, each item is given a number and all combinations were presented. The numbers on the right that are circled indicate that these are the items that Jane chose. And it can also be noted that she did play or eat with each item as was appropriate. Here we see that the results of the paired stimulus preference assessment found that Jane chose the Swedish berry 100% of the time, chips 75% of the time, the Princess and Chair toys 50% of the time, the Eagle toy 25% of the time, and the tambourine was actually chosen 0% of the time. So she never chose the tambourine when given more than one option. The multiple stimulus without replacement preference assessment involved presenting all of the items in an array on the table in front of Jane, instructing her to choose one. When Jane chose one item, the rest were removed, and she was allowed to play with that item for 20 seconds, or eat it if it wasn't edible. The remaining items were then presented to her again, without replacing the previously chosen items. And this whole process was done 3 times over 2 days. Here you can see the first time I conducted this assessment, when all of the items were available, she chose the Swedish berry first, so I marked a check under the Swedish berry in row 1. After she chose the Swedish berry, that item was no longer available, and so she chose the chip, so I marked a check under the chip in row 2. And I have a new data sheet for each time I did this whole assessment. 1, 2, and 3. Not surprisingly, the results from the multiple stimulus preference assessment do look similar to the results of the paired stimulus preference assessment. Here Jane chose the Swedish berry 100% of the time again, the chip 50% of the time, the Princess and Chair toys 30% of the time, the Eagle toy 27% of the time, and the tambourine was 20% of the time. Both assessments found Swedish berries to be the most reinforcing, and the tambourine to be the least reinforcing. However, the multiple stimulus assessment better displays the extent to which she prefers Swedish berries. As well, it displays that she will readily interact with each item. The results of the paired stimulus assessment makes the reinforcers appear to be closer in value to Jane, and does not give an opportunity to show Jane's interactions with the item that she chose second over every other item. Overall, A clear hierarchy of these reinforcers has been found with the use of both the paired stimulus preference assessment and the multiple stimulus preference assessment. While I was conducting the preference assessments, I found that when given a Swedish berry, Jane does take a little longer to eat it. So in the future, smaller pieces of Swedish berry could be tried. The information that I have gathered with Jane is valuable as it can now be used to benefit her during her table sessions. By using stronger reinforcers, Jane will have increased motivation to work, so that greater gains can hopefully be made during her table sessions. I hope you have found this presentation interesting and informative, and I'd like to thank you for taking the time to view it.